What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down the FOMC meeting for you guys, talk about why this is going to be very big for the markets and how this may affect NIO for tomorrow. I'm also going to do some technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for NIO, talk about everything you need to know for tomorrow and what's going on with the markets and what NIO put on their Twitter page, which is still very bullish news. And before I talk about all this information, everything you got to know for tomorrow, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting real quick. I'm not a financial planner, so don't take any of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 10 free stocks, each worth up to $2,500. And you could always sell these 10 free stocks for cash and use that cash to buy some NIO shares for free in this limited time offer that ends in just 6 days. So please check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So NIO is currently just a little bit in the green, up about 0.47% for the day, closing at $19.33. And I did predict that we did see a bit of a drop. I did think that NIO could drop below $19 temporarily, but then NIO ended up actually pushing up and holding above 19 for the rest of the day. So it closed a little bit higher than I thought. I thought NIO would close around the high $18 level, a little bit in the red. We ended up closing kind of in the green, which is a pretty decent sign, but it's not necessarily the best of signs just yet because a lot more things are still happening to the markets. So tomorrow we have the start of the FOMC meeting. Let me actually talk about it right here. The FOMC meeting is going to be between the 26th and 27th of July. And this is actually going to be important because tomorrow is going to be the last free day before the last full day before Jerome Powell announces the rate hikes. Now, so far, what we're seeing right now is it's going to be a closed board meeting on July 26th. I think at 9 o'clock a.m. there will be something over there from the board division of board members. But after that, they have a closed meeting at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday. So this is when the Fed is going to announce some very important things behind closed doors. And they're going to make some new big changes to their monetary policies on Wednesday. So that's going to be a very big day. So right now, this is essentially what the calendar is looking like. Nothing too huge just yet for tomorrow, but it is going to kind of continue on the anticipation of some big things. Now, we have the FOMC meeting this week. 75 basis points no longer feels so significant. I actually agree with this article. It doesn't feel that significant because we've not only seen this before, but much of the damage has already been priced in, which is why the market's not tanking as hard as it typically would. And I did think that that was a possibility, and the SPY was showing signs of that with those gaps and etc. So some downside is still prominent in my opinion for tomorrow or even for Thursday as GDP comes out. But right now, I do think it's going to remain kind of boring. I do anticipate some boring price action where NIO just trades sideways just like this. This is essentially what the market has been doing with a bit of a downward thrust to it. If you look at SPY, it was just barely in the green. It just barely got pushed up at the very end to the green, up about 0.12%. Overall, it was just trading sideways between around the 393 range, around that area between there and also around that 396.5, 397. So the SPY is just trading sideways as well. That's what happened throughout the majority of the day. We did see it push back by some margin for most of the day, but overall, still got a green close, pretty decent. And I do anticipate some very boring price action again like this tomorrow. I think we're going to get a nice push into open, followed by a bit of a drop, and just continue to trade sideways from there. The same can be said about NIO. What should you look out for? Well, I want to talk about the key zones first, and I'm going to talk about what's very important. As you guys already know, NIO has resistance at around that $20 level. We also have some resistance at 20.8, and then also even higher than that, around that 21.5. Now, I don't see NIO going up to like 21 or even like 20. I think that's unlikely. But we do have support around 19 flat and then 18.5. And after that, it could be around that 17.8 range. So NIO does look more likely to actually test these lower levels again. And one of the things I mentioned in my previous videos was I did see $19, the support over there, not necessarily holding us up perfectly, because you'll notice that we actually touched $18.78 for a few minutes today. It lasted maybe for about half an hour. So we dropped below 19, and that's a sign that NIO could actually see more price action in the 18s relatively soon. Now, if we look at this from a more technical standpoint, let me actually make this chart look simpler by closing out some of these. Let me also hide my drawings. I think my drawings are kind of distracting in a lot of ways. So what I'm essentially seeing for NIO right now is if we zoom out of the time frame like this, you'll see, I think the daily chart would be a little bit better for me to do it this way. Yeah, so from the daily standpoint, all right, which was a little bit concerning to me, is we got the MACD and the signal line crossover. We're also seeing RSI dropping and dropping and dropping with NIO's chart overall. And what's very interesting to me is this. So if you look at the daily chart, one of the good ways to read the chart is using the 1348 EMA crossover strategy. So using that on the daily, when we got the crossover, let me actually zoom out first and then show this to you. So way back here, all right, back in like June of 2021, 1348 EMA crossover on the daily. NIO was pushing above the 200 EMA. This thing pushes up to 55. Then we got these 1348 EMA crossovers down. NIO drops all the way down into the 30s, right? And then it gets a push up, a crossover up, then another crossover down here. NIO went from the 40s. We got a 1348 EMA sell signal, right? We were trading below the 200 EMA. MACD was also dropping with RSI. NIO goes from the 40s all the way down. We get no more crossovers, and NIO drops all the way down, continues to drop and drop and drop all the way down to 11 bucks. Then this thing starts to kind of flip. We get a crossover up, right? The crossover up came, and then what happened was NIO came close to the 200 EMA. Now, if we broke past the 200 EMA and started pushing even higher, this could be a sign of us kind of showing some very, very nice divergence and starting a bit of an upward trend. We haven't seen that yet. We came close to the 200 EMA, we got rejected. And what you're noticing is after that rejection, rejection of 24.43, NIO is dropping, right? And now we're almost getting that 1348 EMA crossover again. And if it crosses over down, this would be a very bearish sign. NIO could actually come down to the lower teens. Now, I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen just yet because this doesn't guarantee it. This is just one indication of it. But so far, we see bearish momentum and that we are respecting a bit of a downward trend. So now to bring this back to what I was talking about earlier, let me actually bring back my drawings. You'll notice that NIO does have space to drop down again, and it has been still respecting this downtrend. And this is because of the overall market. We have GDP coming out. We also have earnings coming out. I think Microsoft and McDonald's have earnings for tomorrow. And on Thursday, we have Apple and Amazon reporting their earnings. That's going to be very big for the markets too. Because if Apple and Amazon both have bad earnings, for example, the whole market will take a hit most likely. And that's due to the fact that when earnings aren't that good, it shows businesses are not doing as well. That's another sign of a recession and struggles in our economy. The stock market is not like that. But I'm kind of getting a little bit ahead over myself right over there. What I see happening to NIO is a bit of a downtrend that's kind of continuing. We're fighting to kind of hold 19, but we're showing some signs that we're not going to hold it as well as before. So that's kind of like more of a bearish indication for me. So going into tomorrow, let me just draw out what could end up happening. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a kind of like a repeat of what we saw today. Into open, we get a push up like this to about 19.5 or so. Then we drop down just like this. We test 19 a few times, then we end up dropping lower. And what could happen is we could end up spending more time in the 18s. And we may actually start treating 19 as resistance for some time. Maybe we'll come a little bit back up like this, start pushing up a bit, trade kind of sideways again, and then see a bit of a red close, kind of like this. And we could close just barely at 19, but or even at the high 18s. That's also in the realm of possibility. But I do see this thing getting more and more price action in the 18s and actually coming down a little bit more from now. Because so far we haven't seen that sign of a nice reversal just yet. It did manage to close green, which is very interesting, but overall, like I said, 19 isn't holding perfectly. We are kind of trading in the 18s. So I do think we may see another red day for the markets. But remember, it's not the end of the world because we have some very, very bullish news for the long term that's coming out. If we look at what the Motley Fool kind of uh, uh, released today, we can see that they have this article about why on earth the Chinese EV maker looks poised to grow, and they're talking about NIO. It looks very, very strong for the long-term future. They did mention the fact that it's been falling over the last couple of quarters in terms of share price. But if you look at their growth, in 2019, we had 20,000 cars produced. 2020, 43,000. 2021, 91,000. And 2022, it's looking like in the first half alone, despite the lockdowns, we already got 50,000, which is still way better than what we saw last quarter. And what I expect to be happening is we're probably going to easily surpass over 120,000 this year. In my opinion, I think we have the potential to do that, especially as we see better growth throughout the year. So 120,000, very possible, maybe even more than that. They have very nice products that are coming out. The ET7 is beautiful. I can't wait for their new SUVs. Not to mention that the fact that they have the ET5 as well, which is going to be very big. And we're seeing just massive, massive improvements. Look at these improvements you could see in NIO compared to others out there. Now, one of the things that people talk about is how NIO does have some, they could make improvements to their PS ratios and so on and so forth. That is kind of true, but at the same time, it doesn't matter as much because, in my opinion, they're doing very, very well. And in my opinion, I know that it doesn't look too cheap, but if you give them time, I do see lots of improvements to be made as we get better valuations and their premiums kind of improve. So long term, with the models coming, expansions to the European markets and all over the world, extended subsidies potentially from the Chinese government, the growth seems very, very imminent for the long term future. And according to their NEO Global page, we could see EVs experienced substantial growth in 2021 as their market climbed 11.9% of the light vehicle market. Once again, incredible acceleration and adoption, and that makes me very, very excited as the EV sector is growing, and NIO is just going to be one of the big players in this market. So overall, I'm very, very bullish for the long term. For the short term, I am a little bit more on the bearish side. It does look like this thing is still respecting a bit of a downtrend. 19 did not hold as perfectly. We ended up touching the 18s, like I mentioned, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a repeat of what we saw today happen tomorrow with a little bit more action in the 18s. With that said and done, I know people don't like to hear that. I do think the days are going to be kind of boring, kind of flat, but I do anticipate downside for NIO. But with that out of the way, NIO is doing all right. So stay strong. Don't worry too much. And I will see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long term future is bright. And peace out.